Okay, here's a lesson learned. I was going to try and run this controller with my 48-volt panel, which is right here, right? $200, size of a door, and but I can't because this controller, well, actually, it's both. This bank is only 12 volts, and I bought this inverter, which is only 12 volt inverter, because it's got a better warranty than the 48 volt systems or the 48 volt inverters on Amazon. And so here's a lesson. The more you try to convert the higher voltage into 12 volts, the more expensive your controller is going to be. So since the Renogy, I only have four 100-watt panels hooked up in series right now, which means I'm only running 400 watts of power from the panels at 20 amps. It goes higher than 20 amps. It goes to like 25 amps, right? Because it's like 5.21 amps per panel, and then it converts it into 12 volts, which means that if I had a 24 volt system, I could run 1,000 watts in panels, which means I could double the amount of panels, because it doesn't have to convert as much or something, so that's just how it works. So you got to watch out for that. The lower voltage system you have, right, the more money you're going to have to spend on a controller because it has to convert more, so you can go with a PWM controller, which doesn't have to convert anything. It does not convert anything, actually. So I'm gonna have to hook up my four panels in parallel somehow, either 24. No, I'm gonna have to do it 12 volts because it's a 12 volt system, right? So I'm gonna have to put the four 12 volt panels in parallel together as a 12 volt system through this PWM controller to the 12 volt batteries, so I can run my 12 volt inverter that has the better warranty than the lottery ticket on Amazon. So here's a lesson. These things apparently are more efficient, the MPPT controllers, at somehow converting the energy, because you're running a higher voltage, which is somehow more efficient, and then you're converting it into amps, right? See how much those numbers are moving? It's just hitting every number, right? I think that's what it is. That's probably what it is, right? So, more fractions equals more accuracy, right? So anyways, you want to go cheap, then that's cool. Get a PWM controller. Just make sure that your PWM controller is at, if you're going to buy the cheap panels at 48 volts, you're going to run 100 volts, something. Make sure that it's compatible, because you can run 100 volts off of an MPPT controller, but you got to watch how much it has to convert the energy, right? So you just got to look at the numbers. So this one will do 12 volts to the batteries at 500 watts or something. So I got a 400 watt. It came with 400 watts in panels at 12 volts each panel, hooked up in series, and it equals like 48 volts. So this will do 48 volts, and then it'll convert the 48 volts into 12 volts at a higher amperage. This one will not take 48 volts. So I'm gonna have to hook up the panels that came with this controller in parallel, so that it goes to 12 volts, so it can go directly from 12 volts through the charge controller, right? Because that's all it is just a charge controller, to the 12 volt batteries, to the 12 volt inverter. This one, I'm just gonna use it to run one of the 400 watt 48 volt panels that I bought for 200 bucks. And then I guess I'm just gonna have to buy another controller of some kind, maybe another cheapo PWM controller, or try to find a cheap MPPT controller that converts 48 volts into, yeah, that's what I'm gonna have to do. I just cannot, no, this does not convert. So that's what I'm gonna have to do, is I'm gonna have to buy a MPPT controller that's cheap, that can handle, you know, maybe 2 of those panels if I want, but I only need it to handle 1, right? Add another controller to this setup. You can run these controllers in parallel with each other, so as long as you're running them in parallel to the batteries, they should charge the batteries, right? I looked that up on the internet. So I'm gonna have to buy a MPPT controller that converts 48 volts or 100 volts or whatever into 12 volts, right? So just be aware that that's what happens. You spend more money trying to convert high voltage into low voltage. So if I had a 48 volt battery setup with a cheapo 48 volt inverter off Amazon, I could literally run a PWM 48 volt charge controller straight through, and that would work cheap, right? So just letting you guys know, if you guys want to make your own setup. All right, over and out, guys.